Oh, okay. I know what you're all thinking. Why am I reviewing this? And to that I answer, I don't know. Because I kinda wanted to talk about this movie for a while, so yeah. Little and Big Monsters. One of the most creative movie titles I've ever seen. Little and Big Monsters is a movie made by Video Brinkado, who you may know for Ratatouille. The movie itself is a mockbuster of DreamWorks' Monsters vs. Aliens, with a key difference being that there is no giant woman. So I guess if you were expecting one, yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. As for the plot of the movie, it features a family of monster hunters or alien hunters, and that's kinda just the plot of the movie really. Considering this is a movie from Video Brinkado, can you expect this movie to have the quality of an X64 game? Is that a joke? You decide, I guess. But if you watched one movie from them, then you can't really expect anything new or unique here for that matter. But just to get this out of the way, I'm not the first person to have talked about this movie, and I probably won't be the last. Without further ado, let's get ourselves into Little and Big Monsters. Yeah, the title's just weird. But what do I expect at this point? We start the movie off with one of the main characters waking up to a robot showing him a breakfast menu.
Express breakfast, country breakfast, breakfast with nuts, Sunday breakfast, breakfast delight.
A breakfast menu with smiley faces. Whatever helps you, I suppose. This is then followed up with the robot reading him today's news, and it's also where we learn that he is a scientist called Dr. Crumb. We then get the movie's first joke.
For crying out loud, it must be a virus. I'm sure I unsubscribed from that darn Chinese news channel.
The first joke of the movie, and we're already going with stereotypes. I can tell this is going to be a fun ride. Moving past that, we see Dr. Crumb having his country breakfast, which is just an egg, but whatever I guess. We then get introduced to Dr. Crumb's kids, a girl named Amanda and a boy named Gunto, and yes, it is spelled that way. And then they talk about Dr. Crumb's special day, and that's really about it. Cut to the next scene, where we see Dr. Crumb in an interview with his science partner named Dr. Zooks, and yes, it is spelled that way. So anyways, they are being asked questions about their space antenna by a lot of people, or silhouettes, or Big Chungus himself, I don't know.
And here we turn the key on. The energy will flow through the antenna, thereby electrifying the solar electrodes in order to capture the most distant sounds from the infinite number of galaxies.
And with it, we can start stealing your data. I mean, look at Big Chungus. This is also where we learn that Dr. Crumb and Dr. Zooks were involved in some sort of monster invasion in 54.
Crumb, please, Dr. Zooks, just one more question. Yes. One last question. It's almost time to activate the antenna. You over there, you've had your hand raised for so long. Now please make your question brief. This is the last one we have time for. What is it?
Dr. Crumb, Dr. Zooks, first I'd like to congratulate you on this initiative. What we terrestrial beings are asking is, what about our security? We're still pretty traumatized by the images of that film showing how you fought off those terrible aliens during the infamous invasion of 54.
And what's that monster invasion, you may ask? We'll find out more later on. So after that whole thing, they launched their space antenna, and that's about it for this whole scene. So we see Gunto walking down the street, and then he spots a thing up in the sky that then lands on the road. He then picks up the green ball thingy that has landed on the road. A green ball thingy that looks more of a 2D object and has the worst lighting I've seen so far. We then cut to everyone at an ice cream bar, because why not, I guess. And here, Gunto asks his uncle some questions about his space antenna, and then Dr. Crumb was all like, you see, science! While we're here, let's talk about the animation for a bit, on how worse it even looks than Ratatouille. Like for an example, the hair on the models look like they're trying to clip themselves out of this movie. And if you look in the background in some scenes, most models are just like silhouettes. Like, they didn't even bother like trying to put actual people in there, which really can tell you that this definitely seems like it's a money laundering scheme. So after that whole thing, Amanda then takes Gunther home and back into his room.
It's time to go to sleep. Can I have some of the leftover pudding from dinner first, please? No, you just had a chocolate sundae with fudge on top and you got into bed eating a lollipop. You're gonna be as big as a whale.
And if you look at the wall, you can actually see a poster of The Little Cars, a movie that's also made by Video Brain Kato. Amanda then tells Gunther to go to sleep, and that's really about it for this scene. We cut to Dr. Crumb and Dr. Zooks doing science stuff, because they are scientists if you couldn't tell. Dr. Zooks then tells Dr. Crumb that he needs to tell the truth to Amanda about the thing that they did.
But if your niece finds out what we've done, she's smart, you know. Don't you think it's time to tell Amanda the truth? She's bound to find out eventually.
Are you crazy? Amanda idolizes me.
And what's this thing that they did that's making them act very sus? We won't find out here, because at this very moment, they receive a message.
New message.
It's a message! It's a message!
You have a new message. To listen to the message, press 1. For other options, press
Lost, sugar, mutation, danger, salty junk food, hurry, salt, repeat, no sugar.
That is a very vague message right there. But as for the message itself, it seems to say that salt is good and sweet is bad. It's either a warning message or the start to a very boring Alpha and Omega fanfic. But that is more than enough to make Dr. Crumb super angry.
Is there a defect? What a strange message. I can't stand machines. I hate them. What a bunch of hunks of junk. If only one of them would work right.
Man, he's even more pissed than Putz 12 when he loses a ranks battle. But then Dr. Zooks is all like, you need to go to sleep. But then Dr. Crumb is all like, yeah, you're right, I need to go to sleep. And that's literally about it for this whole scene. The next day happens and we see Gunther and Amanda talk and nothing really happens there. But then a weird noise comes out of nowhere. Dr. Crumb then appears because we need the plot to move somehow. After informing him about everything, Amanda then tells Dr. Crumb that he can start saving the world again, because why not, I guess. Dr. Crumb then starts saying a bunch of dangerous stuff that I'm going to skip through, because I'm pretty sure you're just listening to this video in the background while you're playing Genshin Impact. Not that I've got anything against that game though, but whatever it is that you're doing is probably better than this movie. But anyways, Dr. Crumb says that the ball is actually an egg, and that's about it. We cut to the lab where Dr. Crumb and Dr. Zooks are doing science stuff, because science. But then Amanda is all like, we should start shooting these monsters stormtrooper style. Is that a joke? Because I'm trying to make this video interesting, because the plot sure isn't. We then get a radio news report telling us that the monsters are doing very big damage to the city.
The wrath of destruction is terrible. In an instant, the monster mercilessly tore apart a garden. Turn it off,
Guto.
And for some reason has run into the zoo. It's sheer madness. Run for your lives! It just growled, showing his enormous pointed teeth. Obviously, it's not here to make friends. No, certainly it's diabolical. It just wants to eat our body parts like snack foods.
Guto, turn it off.
It's in the zebra pen now. Poor little zebra. Your black stripes seem faded and white with fear. And now the monkeys are getting into the act. Yes, listeners, the monkeys are jumping onto the shoulders of the monster, unaware of the tremendous danger.
Please
they're
turn
in.
it off,
The monsters
Guto.
seem to mock the monkeys as they jump off, laughing hysterically. What utter confusion! The monsters are moving in the direction of Corman Park. God help us! That's where the children play. Somebody save us! Help!
So after that whole thing, Dr. Crumb then pulls Dr. Zooks aside, and it is where we find out about a very shocking thing that they did.
Dr. Zooks, I don't believe it's possible. This monster story must be some type of scheme that we need to get to the bottom of. They'll find out the whole lie. Monsters don't exist.
As it turns out, the monster invasion of 54 was a complete lie. The whole thing was faked by the scientists so they could get the funding for the space antenna. They tell us all of this information in the most weirdest expositional way possible. Like, this is not how you tell it.
Find out everything. We're done. Fried.
That actually, in all honesty, was actually very funny. Well, not that funny, but funny. Well done, movie. Well done. So anyways, a bunch of talking happens that I'm going to just skip through because I'm too lazy to come up with anything funny or interesting here. So we're just going to move on now. We go back to the city where Amanda and Gunto are looking for the monsters. One weird interaction later, the scientists find them and that's about it. Dr. Crumb then gets a call from the mayor, and after that whole thing, decides to tell Amanda the whole truth. Before Amanda can say anything, they are spotted by a monster. And then they just run into the cinema, and I guess that's about it. While they're at the cinema, Amanda then gets mad at Dr. Crumb for lying to them.
Why did you lie to us? Do you have any idea what kind of danger you put us in? We were shooting at the monster with a toy gun.
I know it's unforgivable what I did. Please try to forgive me.
So one stupid thing later, the monster appears out of nowhere like Golden Freddy. But then Gunter manages to shrink the monster with salt, because why not, I guess, and that's about it for this scene. We arrive back to the lab when Amanda and Gunter are looking at the monster they just caught.
Be careful. If you give that little guy any more popcorn, he'll disappear. You're absolutely right. I already figured out that salty things turn these monsters into harmless little creatures, but I need to know more.
As it turns out, their weaknesses seems to be salty food, while sugary food makes them big and strong. Well, whatever makes this whole thing go faster. And that's about it here. Back at the city, we see a cloaked man asking for directions from the popcorn dude, and that's about it here. Back to the lab, Amanda comes into the lab again with news that more monsters have appeared. But Dr. Crumb is all like, no, stay here and do not leave the house. But they end up leaving the house anyways, like the massive Giga Chads that they are. Glad to know that my time isn't being wasted here. Back at the city again, Amanda and Guto find the other monsters and then begin to attack them with salty foods.
Hit him with the salt, quick! Take this, you oversweet monster! Swallow these salty peanuts!
Oh, okay, so that's how salty peanuts work. I mean, I would start complaining about this, but like, we're near the end of the film, so who honestly cares? Also, I just want to get this video done. So after that whole thing, we then meet up with some aliens who are actually looking for those monsters, who are actually their pets.
Clean and friendly, huh? Right. So, as I was saying, we come in peace. This has been a terrible mix-up. See, the eggs of our pets accidentally slipped out of our spaceship and happened to fall here on your planet, Earth. We are here to rescue them and not to cause any harm to anyone. So, sorry if we scared you. We know that our pets can be a little difficult to manage, and we hope that they haven't been causing you guys too many problems. So, like I was saying...
Meanwhile, at the ice cream place, we see people being served ice cream, and then this scene happens. This movie's middle name is High Quality. So after that whole thing, the monster then gets to the ice cream and then grows large, just like Fury Bowser. Amanda, Gunto, and the aliens arrive on the scene, but their weapons don't do anything because the monster had too much sugar. Oh no! But Dr. Crumb and Dr. Zooks luckily arrive in the nick of time. And so, an epic and climactic battle happens that is really, really, really epic. Then Splatoon 3's story mode ending because this is a very predictable movie. And then Dr. Crumb finishes the monster off with a salt attack because sure, why not, I guess. After that, our heroes meet up with the aliens once more, and then they say their thanks for saving their pets. And so they just say a bunch of stuff to the scientists, thanking them for helping them out, and then they just leave. After that, while they're at the lab, they get a phone call from the mayor saying that there's another monster attack in the city. Our heroes then get suited up to take on the monster, and the movie ends on that note. So that was Little and Big Monsters. While I would say this is a bad movie, it's a little bit better than Ratatouille. Not by a large margin, but a little bit better to say the least, in my opinion. The plot, while it's like ripping off Monsters vs. Aliens, it's kinda just generic to say the least. Like, it doesn't stretch its scenes a lot like Ratatouille did, so I guess that's an improvement, I suppose. If there's one scene I liked, it was the one where Dr. Crumb gets slapped a lot, but to get to it, you have to get through a lot of the other scene first to get to it. And even then, the scene itself is rather mediocre. Like, it's not the best thing out there, but I guess it was just funny enough to give me a small chuckle. The animation is video brincado, so not much to say there. The characters are very one note and have very weird names, with the exception of Amanda. The voice acting was fine to say the least, not anything special, but just okay, I guess. Overall, this movie is not bad, but not great to say the least. And the fact that like this movie got a sequel is certainly interesting, but that's another story for another day. Yeah, I guess I don't know how to end this video other than play Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. Okay, bye.